Happy Patch Tuesday, everybody. We made it to July. Yeah, I can't believe it's July already, but thanks again for your continued support through all of our podcasts and webinars, YouTube videos, etc., etc. we do here on Automox. We really appreciate all your support. We are up over 25,000 subscribers on YouTube, so obviously a solid win. And yeah, your support makes these podcasts possible, where you get to hear us rant every Patch Tuesday about vulnerabilities that, we enjoy so much. But
ramble on about why the internet's on fire.
Always on fire from all the fun stuff we got to deal with every Patch Tuesday. But, we made it. And this month is a very, very spicy month. I think even more spicier than any month so far, as far as vulnerabilities are concerned, coming out of these release notes. And curious your thoughts, Jason.
Yeah, I mean, June was a pretty solid month where we had 49 CVEs. And I remember we were talking about, I think it was May that set the record for most number of CVEs across all vendors. And then now to see 138 in July, nearly triple, double and a half what we had in June, 138 CVEs this month from Microsoft is, somewhat shocking. And it's interesting too, because, honestly, we don't have time to cover it all, but we saw a lot of runs of the same thing. And I just have to say, if you have Microsoft SQL Server, good luck, because I literally lost count trying to count all of the 8.8 high or those eights are what, critical? No, they're highs. Yeah, I mean, just on and on and on it went of just, there were so many highs in it, and it just went page after page after page. So there's a lot to do this month. That's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think people are just preparing for the summer camp, out in Vegas, right?
Yeah. I mean, some of this is definitely that bump, that we see every year pre-Hacker Summer Camp out in Vegas of, Black Hat and DEF CON, where researchers want to be able to talk about things that they've discovered and developed, but they want to be responsible about it. And so they want to make sure that there's a patch on the street before they go out there and tell a big crowd that there's a vulnerability without a patch being available. But it's, and I think some of those shown through, although it was interesting with the, all the SQL Server ones were all anonymous, and that always makes me suspicious about where those are coming from. Because there are legitimate reasons to provide something anonymously, but it always just makes me suspect a little bit what that might have been used for, or how it might have been discovered. So probably something not strictly speaking legal, or legal in every country. It's just, and this first one here, Ryan, we were looking at it, this Windows Remote Desktop licensing thing. And we're not quite certain how many devices are exposed to it, but it looks like the high end might be 2 million. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, that's our initial assessment of it. I find that one to be really interesting, because if somebody was, on your internal network or something like that, it could probably be really easy to just get into, and even more so if your RDP licensing server is exposed to the internet and not behind a VPN, which I think is
that's pretty terrifying.
Yeah.
To be able to get, and that one was RCE as well, right? That one was RCE. Yeah, that's pretty significant if, because this is a widely used service, and people try not to expose individual endpoints, but they'll expose the servers, and those servers require licensing. And if those are indeed, if all of those have have the need for a licensing server and don't have a special situation like, oh, we have pre-installed certificates or we have unlimited licensing, then that is a major threat out there. So definitely one to pay attention to on that. And that was CVE 2024. Do we have the number?
There's a bunch of them.
Yeah, there's a few. Yeah,
there's a whole bunch of them.
Keeps on going. That's right. Yeah. There was a chunk of those. So yeah.
I would say if you're not knowledgeable about like whether or not you need like remote desktop licensing in your environment, it would behoove you to search whether or not that feature is enabled on any of your servers. And if not necessary, disable it.
Yeah, which is Microsoft's advice, but the way they talked about it leads me to believe that it's on by default, because they didn't say, hey, if you have this turned on, it was, if you haven't turned this off, which is their inside way of saying like this thing's on by default.
Yeah.
Definitely worth looking into your servers to see if that's turned on at all.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like this one is just ripe for exploitation. I think about school districts. I think about, state SLED type Windows environments, and it's always get it done quick. And, one or two people will run the whole like county's IT infrastructure, and all that stuff is usually exposed to the internet.
Water treatment plants with our
right.
Yeah.
Not behind VPN, or, if they're using a VPN, it's probably one of those really good VPNs that are in the news every month, right?
That's right.
So, yeah, this feels to me like another one of those, like, it's going to get a POC on GitHub in the next week or two, and then, everyone's favorite ransomware actor is going to throw this in their exploit kit and go to town on a lot of these other small businesses and stuff like that. That's where my head is with this one.
Yeah. And if it doesn't get something on GitHub, somebody's gonna get on stage in Vegas and talk about it and walk you through it. So move quickly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, and there's some other good ones too, right? Like 2024 38053, which is this Windows Layer 2 Bridge Network RCE. And, that's another one where I'm just like,
yeah,
honestly, just shaking my head, because I feel like it's just, I'm on your local network, and so if you have a network adapter, so I'm plugged into the LAN, like, you're screwed, right? Like, that's how I'm reading it. But
I mean, this brings me back to, so it's, late 90s, like 1997, hopefully past the statute of limitations. Ping of Death comes out. This might have been 96, 97. I'm a freshman at Carnegie Mellon, and Ping of Death comes out, and we had unlimited fun on that thing, just like knocking over like your friends' computers and just kicking them offline.
Your friends' computers.
Yeah. Well, and then we had this one professor, and he had this like ancient Windows NT server, and so we would just like blast Ping of Death away at it, and like everyone on the floor would coordinate, because no one wanted to turn in it was Intro to Modern Math, which is just a terrible class, and nobody wanted to turn in their homework, so we would just like blast the Ping of Death at this NT server until it fell over. And this poor professor keeps going like, yeah, I added more RAM to that thing again, like I don't know, it's real sorry that it just can't handle the load of students turning in their homework, and we're all just like just keep blasting that thing away and getting more time to turn in our assignments. And we'd even get some students who were like, hey, like I want to actually turn my stuff in on time. Can you guys just like give me 5 more minutes? But this feels, this layer 2 bridge network driver RCE feels like it's of that era where you just had these like kind of fundamental flaws. And this coupled with that, the Wi-Fi driver flaw from last month. I mean, obviously there's people looking around in some fundamental things that have been in Windows for a very long time.
Yeah.
And was this the one that they even had patches going back to server 2008? I think this might have been.
Yeah.
I think most of them are.
Yeah, a lot of them, they went way back. They're even backporting some patches. It's just like these things have obviously been in there for a very long time and gone unnoticed. And, that's pretty concerning. Same with the next one of, 2024 38060 Microsoft Windows Codex Library RCE. It's a TIFF file, right? If you can upload a TIFF file to a server, you get RCE. And God, I think the last time I was playing around with TIFF files, I was no kidding on Windows 3.1, Windows 3.11, Windows for Workgroups. I don't even think I was playing around with them by the time I got to Windows 95. So my goodness, how long has that thing been around?
Yeah, that one just feels so random. It's completely out of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, it's like somebody's just going out and grabbing old versions of Windows and then just fuzzing it and then saying is this code still there? And oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Something, because it's just we're doing some greatest hits here.
I think on that one, I also question, because it says any authenticated attacker, does that mean guest users?
Yeah,
guest users are technically authenticated users.
Right.
Maybe make sure that that's disabled a bit to kind of mitigate, anonymous authentication. So
yeah, and it says no user interaction required. So, I mean, does the server just automatically say, oh, it's a TIFF file, let me kind of pre-parse it to generate an image preview or something, and that's how the code gets called? I'm not sure, but I'm guessing it is something along those lines. And it's just very wild, low effort, old school stuff that seems to keep popping up. It feels like it's accelerating, not decelerating.
Yeah, I'm interested to see that chain, to see kind of how that goes across.
Yeah. And then those services, if you're running IIS or another Windows service exposed to the internet, what's the impact there, right? Because you just upload a file, it lands on disk. If TIFF if it gets a preview, like you mentioned, Jason, right? Are my IIS servers exposed here? All this is kind of very loose on the details, but I think it provides such an interesting attack surface. And, standard Microsoft fashion, they save all the good stuff.
Yeah.
For their internal message boards, right? Yeah, but I do agree. I feel like this year so far has been very, very people exploring these old APIs that people haven't explored in a long time. And I also see it across other OSs too, like OS X. When we talked about it earlier this year, where they had all those RCEs in their image processing library, right? This all feels to me like once the White House released that, hey, everyone move to Rust. All this stuff starts popping up, because I assume all this stuff's written in C or C++ or some other C derivative, and it's not
because it's been around forever.
Right, exactly. And people are just getting creative on the things that they're fuzzing and looking into. And
speaking of getting creative, these PowerShell vulnerabilities, my goodness. Tom, could you walk us through these a little bit more?
Yeah, they're within PowerShell itself. So, I mean, everything, the details are very limited. But, it sounds to me that basically you can, elevate your privileges or, other attacks just by running PowerShell. And I'm guessing it's how it's parsing, the PowerShell script itself or some other mechanism in here. But yeah, passing some weird value to PowerShell or something. It's just one of those, like I said, who's fuzzing PowerShell these days,
I mean, it looks like it was worth it. I mean, if you got that many privesks.
Yeah. As an unprivileged user, I mean, I guess you do get that that UAC prompt when you're trying to run PowerShell, but not always, right? There is an interesting attack vector here, for non-privileged users. So I mean, really, the only thing you could do is update it, right?
I was going to ask,
or turn it off completely, right?
Yeah, because my other question was going to be, can you set up any restrictions around remoting or anything that could protect you, or is it just baked in to PowerShell to where it's just you can get around it? So, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, they don't have much in it as far as the attack vector goes, but like I said, I'm assuming it's some kind of overflow somewhere in there, and I elevate my privileges, which it's just it's like Bash. Like, who's looking into PowerShell internals and looking for these kind of vulnerabilities? Yeah, very interesting, very very interesting. And then there's other security vulnerabilities too in like security products. Like we have all these BitLocker ones and secure boot ones, and
right.
it's just
the secure boot one feels interesting because I really feel like they just popped up in April. There was like just some recent secure boot vulnerabilities that came up that were just recently patched. So it's kind of like, well, this is awkward. Like,
like BitLocker and secure boot, you just trust. Mostly just blindly trust that they're safe, right? Like it's a security tool. I guess we're all kind of guilty in the industry of just kind of blindly trusting our security tools, and it's a security tool, so it's supposed to be safe, right? But I always caution people that it's still just another software product, and it's just as vulnerable as everything else in the industry. So don't blindly trust it, right? Because there's always an attack vector there. Bypasses or elevation of privilege or something.
Just because you have a TPM chip does not mean you're safe.
That's right.
I always love those videos on the internet of they hook up their JTAG right there to the TPM chip, and they grab they grab the key as it's booting, right? Part of me gets it, but part of me is like, that's kind of fuddish, right? Like it is meant to prevent some of those like evil maid style attacks, but at the same time, right, like those keys will be unencrypted at some point in time,
Yep.
I literally just swapped out a Mobo over the weekend, and it had secure boot on it and everything, and it let me just reset the pin for the computer, and I got right in. So it ain't all that safe. Like, I'm just saying.
Speaking of the call coming from inside the house, you found a really funny one here, Ryan, for Xbox, right?
Yeah. This one, I just thought, once again, super random, super out of nowhere, but the Xbox wireless adapter has an RCE vulnerability on it, which doesn't seem like much, like in terms of like the corporate landscape, but as we're moving to kind of like the work from home area, it kind of stresses that importance of protecting your home network, and like keeping the random IoT devices around your home, like alarm systems and TVs and the random adapters you get from Amazon, like patched, and at least kind of have some level of understanding of what might be out there for them. I think it was Tom that brought up with this one, the Wi-Fi range. People completely underestimate how far your Wi-Fi goes out there, and just how easy it would be to air crack it, or like
just driving in my car with this big Wi-Fi dongle on the roof, right? And I'm just like RCE and all these kids, Xboxes this summer, right? Like that's what it feels like to me.
I mean,
like the ultimate troll
all summer. Yeah.
Yeah. Or like the jailbreaking community, right? There's always a community for like rooting your PlayStation or rooting your TV or rooting your Xbox. And this is such an interesting one because like you don't even have to plug it in. Like I'm sure eventually someone will they'll have a little program and you download it and you're like, as long as the Xbox is in range or something, and you'll just broadcast some Wi-Fi packets and you get RCE, and then you flash it and get root access, and it's very interesting attack surface for sure.
Yeah. Not to ruin a kid's summers, but like sometimes you should probably know what your kids have in your house if you're going to work from home. Just I was a kid once, and I had my mom not understand the computers or anything like that and the stuff that we were doing, but not to ruin any kids' summers, but know what your kids are getting into a bit.
Yeah. And there's not like there's EDR for Xbox, right? So I don't expect, I don't know, update your Xbox. You'll be safe. Because this one is quite interesting, honestly.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of other interesting things, OpenSSH, the vuln, right? Where it was a regression introduced in 8.5. So it's, I haven't seen much, honestly, after last week. There was a lot was it the week before last? I don't remember, but there was a lot of hoo-ha in the industry about it, people kind of panicking. But that all really seems to have calmed down, and I haven't really seen much from it since then.
I think it helps that it is, it's a complex one to burn through enough cycles to set conditions on the system to allow for exploitation, right? Like, you are chaining a lot of things together. It is extremely noisy. It's time consuming. You're talking something on the order of like 10 hours on the low end. And obviously, you don't want to necessarily take that for granted, because someone could have a breakthrough on, either setting the conditions or guessing better that would cut that time significantly. But right now it is pretty noisy, and high effort to be able to exploit this. But I think like it's still like, you see OpenSSH, and you kind of do that teeth suck, because like, that's in so many things. It's so critical. It's really dangerous. And so, even if you're in a good position to observe it and catch it, this is one where, you need to take the downtime and just go ahead and get this patched. And I don't even think it requires a reboot. Like, this is a pretty, restart the service. It's pretty straightforward, but definitely something you want to handle right away.
Yeah,
you could easily script something like that out. Yeah.
With a Automox worklet,
Yeah.
Maybe.
You're not wrong.
I just feel like this one is always, like, when I see OpenSSH nowadays, I always think back to like IoT, OT environments where it's mostly 32-bit, right? Mm-hmm. So a lot of the memory protections aren't there because they're very slimmed down on compute. And a lot of times SSH is exposed because they need to do remote management.
Right.
And it's just on the internet. And there's not much security in place, security monitoring, because it's just, it's a very small device. And it's these environments where I feel like these type of attacks kind of are much more impactful, just because of the restrictions and stuff that you have on IoT and OT, right? And even consumer devices, are you checking if this thing is opening up SSH port on your local network? I mean, a lot of us do in this space, because we're a little bit more paranoid than most. But like, is your mom and dad or your grandparents, are they really checking what ports are open, or on their own network?
They don't even know what a port is.
Right? Yeah, my parents call me for help on that. They don't know what they're doing there.
Look, here's the bright side. The bright side is, as spicy as this July is, August will probably be even spicier, because we'll be on that post hacker summer camp hangover, and I'm going to go ahead and lay down a prediction that we might not see more CVEs pound for pound, but we'll probably see a whole lot of POCs, and that's usually when the exploitation ramps up. So it'll be a spicy finish, like it always is.
Always. I just can't believe we're almost to August already.
Crazy.
Time flies when you're trying to keep the internet running.
Panicking about RCEs in your Xbox.
That's right. Tip files gone wild.
Yeah, no kidding. Like, can the attack surface get any worse?
Yeah. Oof.
Well, maybe buy your kids a PlayStation.
Is that any safer? You know, I don't know.
Based off of this one, I couldn't tell you.
I know. Yeah. Well, I think that's all we have for today. We appreciate everyone tuning in again and listening to us talk about this Patch Tuesday. And thanks for your continued support. There's other podcasts and videos and stuff on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform. Go ahead and check those out. We'd be, we'd very much appreciate it. And yeah, happy July, everybody. And thanks again for listening. Good luck with your Patch Tuesday escapades.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Outro music. Dun, 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 dun.